Good evening, Living Faith family. It's Pastor Maurice here. I just wanted to come on for a moment and just encourage you all today with just a word of love and just letting you all know we miss you all and we're thinking about you and we look forward to the time that we can be back together again worshiping. But I also wanted to provide an excerpt of tonight's Bible study. Tonight's Bible study was very good. It was very good. And it dealt with trusting God in difficult times. And so I want to spend about 5 minutes, if I can, and give you the main points of this Bible study in hopes that you will want to listen to the whole Bible study, which we have uploaded on our YouTube channel. And I want to provide that link in the next message that I send you all. So if you have the desire to do so, you may be able to go there and watch it in its entirety. But so real quickly, there were 4 things that we outlined in this specific Bible study. And I'm going to get to that after I tell you the background story about it. Genesis 27 chapter, starting at about the 41st verse and going into Genesis the 28th chapter, starting at about the 10th verse. I would suggest that you read those entire chapters. Read the 27th chapter, the 28th chapter, and I would say go on through the 30th chapter. It'll give you some real good background information about what we're teaching about. But it's about Jacob, who is the father of the 12 tribes of Israel. But at this time, he was not a father. In fact, he was a single man, and he was a much different person in terms of his character than he ended up becoming as the father of the 12 tribes. And so when we pick up this Bible study in the 27th chapter, Jacob is actually on the run. He's running from his brother Esau, who has vowed to kill him because he tricked his father out of the oldest child's blessing. And so Jacob's got the blessing from Isaac, his father. But then when his mother got word that he was going to be killed by his older brother Esau, she sent him to go live with her brother, his uncle Laban. But something interesting happened on Jacob's way to a country called Padan Aram, which is where his uncle was. Jacob, in the middle of his trip, he stopped over to rest one night. And when he went to sleep, he had a dream. And in his dream, he saw angels moving up and down a ladder from heaven. They were going up and down the ladder from heaven. And then at the top of the ladder, he saw God standing above it. And he woke up and to a revelation, which is what he said, truly God is in this place. And he named that place Bethel, which is translated the house of God. So I want to give you the 4 points that we talked about with Joseph and his transition from becoming the trickster, the deceiver, to becoming Israel. Trickster, deceiver, his name Jacob, one who supplants, one who deceives. God changed his name to Israel, to a prince or one who prevails with man and with God. And so the first point that we kind of brought out tonight when we were looking at this is, number one, God is omnipresent, meaning God is everywhere. Even though Jacob was on the run, he was scared, in fear of his life, he found when he laid down in that desert that God is everywhere. And David said it very well in the 139th division of Psalms when he said that, where can I go from your presence? I can't flee anywhere from your presence. If I make my bed in Hades or hell, you're there. He said, if I take on the wings of an angel and fly way up into heaven, he said, you'll still be there. And Jacob found that to be so, that God was everywhere, even in his time of trouble, even in the time of bad judgment, God was still there. So that was point number one. Point number two is God is watching over us. That was an amazing thing that really caught my attention, and I really elaborated on this during the Bible study, is that God is watching over us. He was standing there just like he was, and I pointed out in the Bible study, with Gideon, when Gideon was hiding and threshing out the wheat, hiding from the Armenians, who the Armenian army, who was ravaging their crops and taking prisoners by captive. God was standing there by the tree, just standing there watching him the whole time. And I want you to know that God is always watching us, even when we don't feel his presence around. And that was point number two. Point number three is God is waiting on us to acknowledge him and to invite him into our situation. So this whole time, as you look at what was going on with Jacob, God introduced himself to Jacob. He had been there the whole time. He said, Jacob, I am the God of Abraham, Isaac. He's saying, basically, I'm the God of your grandfather and I'm the God of your dad. You don't know me. I've been here all the time. I've been in your life all the time, but you don't know me. Your parents do. Your father does and your grandfather does, but you don't know me. I'm the God of Abraham and Isaac, and I want to be the God of Jacob. He introduces himself, and Jacob makes a vow here. Jacob actually makes the correct response. When God avails himself, or when God approaches us or gives us his word or introduces himself to us, it necessitates a response. And Jacob said, Lord, if you will take me safely on this journey, give me food, give me clothing. He said, and you'll bring me back to my homeland safely, I will give you a tenth of everything that I gain. And that was his moment with the Lord. It was a special time. That was point number 2. Let's go to point number 3. Point number 3 is God keeps his promises. So it was 20 years later, after Jacob spent time with his uncle Laban, he gained a family. He gained material possessions. He was actually wealthy by the time he left and returned back. And so God had kept his promises. And the wonderful thing that we see as we read the scripture is that when he came back on his way to the journey to meet up with his brother 20 years later, not knowing if his brother was going to still want to take his life, God met him with angels. And that was Jacob's sign, Jacob's sign that God was with him. So God keeps his promises. He did actually give him food, clothing, and much more. And so the fourth point that we actually brought up was that when we follow God, God not only keeps his promises, but he blesses those who follow him. Okay, so those are the 4 points, and I would love for you to get the rest of this Bible study by being able to click on the YouTube link when we provide it for you. It's going to be 30 minutes long. This was a little bit more than 5 minutes. It's actually about 7 minutes. But if this was enough for you, then may the Lord bless you. Enjoy it. Look at it again. Read those scriptures, and just let it get into your spirit. But if you want a little bit more, then click on that YouTube link when I send it to you, the one that has trusted God in hard times. All right, family, love you guys, and I look forward to talking to you all real soon.